Hello and good afternoon. This is Morten from Inkish. Today I have the pleasure of talking to Sander from Ricoh. Welcome, Sander.
Thank you very much, Morten, and pleasure to be here.
Especially since you have great and almost breaking news, right?
Absolutely. We're going to announce some new development in the inkjet market space, so absolutely very exciting news.
Is it the Z75?
We can also talk about the Z75, but that is actually not today's topic. Today's topic is more around the continuous feed, so really the high productivity inkjet solutions.
So we will dig into that in a moment. But before we do that, I'm curious because, I know Ricoh for many years, obviously, and I even back from when you bought the IBM division of print. And I mean, a lot of things have happened since back in many years ago. I think it was in the early 2000s you acquired Infoprint or something, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I now knew to the top of my. It was early 2000. Yes, it started with the joint venture with IBM, and then effectively we got the whole share of the IBM printing division.
Mm-hmm. And at that time, the world was a little bit different from today, right? Not just in the quality and the speed and the processing power of the technology, but the world was entirely different. If you look, you don't have to look so much back because we're more interested in now, of course. But you visit printing companies, you visit trade shows, you probably also from time to time check out what the competition have in their sleeves and things like that. So what is your view on the current situation of, let's say, digital print?
Yeah, I think the current view on digital print is really that with the whole things happening in the world, there's a lot of pressure on the utilization of paper. So in total, you see the market very much under pressure, and this is especially in let's say the analog or offset printing, and that is being confirmed by a lot of companies, paper manufacturers, offset manufacturers. There is a lot of pressure in that business, and the reason for that is that the world is changing. But that also gives a big opportunity, and that opportunity is what we call digital printing. And really to enable our customers to capture that opportunity, we need to make sure that we can deliver high productivity solutions, but also deliver high quality solutions, which deliver the quality which the market is requiring. And I think this is especially where inkjet is very interesting. And it's nicely overlapping, let's say, where offset is kind of impossible to be more competitive with the lower run length, let's say, and where toner is still kind of too expensive, and inkjet really fits into there. And I think if you look back, I think in the past inkjet was kind of okay for transactional, okay for direct mail, but not really for commercial print applications. And I think today, the inkjet marketing is getting much better, and actually, I would say it's definitely good enough to enter all market segments available in the market.
I can't help think about when you say this and I know the topic of today is not the Z75, but still it's kind of interesting because you have been very known in the web-based, web-fed inkjet space for a long time. You've been very well recognized also in the toner, up to SRA3, B3 size of a toner base. And with the Z75, it seems that it kind of bridges let's say, a gap in the market. Maybe a gap because also the cut sheet seems to be very interesting for commercial printers right now. Is that like a strategy that Ricoh is working on, covering more aspects of the printing community, so to speak? Or?
Yes, absolutely. So if you look at the segmentation, you're absolutely right. The really high productivity applications, if you want to run longer run length, continuous feed makes a lot of sense, purely because it's a web-based system. So you have a roll-fed system. You can really tightly control how the paper is handling through the system. Since it's on the paper, also the drying path is much easier. So for the high-end, continuous feed inkjet is the most logical solution. If you have very short run length and you want to print a lot of media flexibility, you want to have integrated finishing, etc., I think toner printing is still a very viable solution. And nicely in between that, I would say you have the B2 solution. And then also B2 makes perfect sense. There are a lot of B2 offset presses in the market. running exactly that kind of short run applications. And that's where the B2 press really nicely fits in. So, and you're absolutely right. The B2 press is our first iteration, first generation of the press. Therefore, for us, also a little bit more challenging to bring it to market. But as you have seen in the press releases, the press is now commercially available. So we can demonstrate, you can order it, and you will have it delivered in let's say, the coming month. By the continuous feed, it's already our fourth generation of inkjet presses. So a lot more experience. So I would say that the platform is much more developed with some of the nice details like automation, how we handle the printers, etc. But definitely that will, like Formula One, those developments will come down into the B2 press. And in the next generations, you will see a lot of improvements also in that platform.
You mentioned yourself the B2 offset machines. One of the questions I almost always ask you guys from the inkjet space is now the time for changing to digital and to inkjet. And sometimes the answers are very clear that this is the time now, and sometimes it's more like it complemented each other for a certain time and applications. Where do you see? I mean, it's not because I want to talk about the Z75 specifically, but I want to understand the market you're addressing, because as you say, in the continuous feed, faster, more control on paper. And when we say long run digital, it means mass customization, not mass production, things like that. So I'm just wondering, I mean, if I was a printing company with let's say a 10, 15 years old offset machine, I want to exchange it to something, should I buy an inkjet device now?
Yes, I would fully say yes. And the reason why I'm so convinced that it's now a good moment to enter is, I think if you look at traditionally commercial printers, most of them were not used to work with printing on rolls, so the continuous fed products. I think with the new press we're introducing now, it's really made much easier. So even people who are not accompanied with it and not used to it, they can easily work with the press. So with all the new features we brought into the press, like automation, the fact that we have two scanners in line, one to really look at the image, the other one a spectrophotometer, really to look at the color consistency and density control. It's so easy to operate such a press. So you don't need any dedicated specific knowledge anymore. I would say we really bring the press down to a level which is makes it a viable solution for any commercial printer.
So let me ask the maybe more difficult question. Let's say I have a toner device and I am about to renew it. So should I buy an inkjet device or should I stay on toner?
That's an interesting question, Morten. And that very much depends also on let's say, your customers. I would say the big reason still to invest in toner is that with toner devices, you can print on any media. We all know that our inkjet solutions are based on aqueous ink. And we know water in combination, for instance, with synthetic materials or plastics, that doesn't work very well together. So this is where toner still fits in very nicely. If you want to run, let's say, ultra short runs, then toner is still very, very viable solution. And also from an investment perspective, toner device, if you buy 9500, it's a very affordable press. You can put 2, 3 next to each other, still very affordable. So if you have a lot of small jobs and you need to run them all together, I think toner makes a very good complement to inkjet. So it really depends on your organization if toner is the viable solution or cut sheet or continuous feed inkjet. And I think the nice thing about our portfolio, it's really meant to work together and complement each other. And there are overlaps, and you will see some customers where you say, maybe a couple of 9500s is a better solution than, let's say, Z75, or multiple Z75s can be replaced by a continuous feed inkjet. But you see a lot of continuous feed inkjet users and also cut sheet inkjet users who still have a toner press available to run those applications which are today challenging on inkjet platform.
I remember when you introduced the 9 series and the 7 series, And I don't know if I'm right, but I think they took the market with storm, because I remember, especially in Denmark, there was a lot of people buying these machines because they were high quality, quite good, okay speed. I think that brought Ricoh into a new level of, let's say, production print in color. That is at least how I see it. I was just wondering, of course, you just delivered the 9500 and also a new, I can't remember, is it 7500 or 7?
Yes.
Yeah. Of course, that is a commitment to the market, but what you say is basically that Ricoh is still committed to both toner and inkjet, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the nice thing is, it's not just us who has that feeling, it's also the market. We had an event last week with Ricoh Netherlands. It was kind of a panel discussion. And we asked also the audience, is there a future for toner printing? Having the discussion also around the Z75, for instance. And more than 90% raised the card saying, yes, there is still a future for toner printing. So I think it's not just us. It's also market studies showing that toner printing is still a viable solution, at least for the next coming years. And the market also sees that.
I have one more question regarding toner before we go into the new baby, right? Because one of the things I really liked about the 7 series, and I think that you have emphasized that a lot in your communication, is the multiple color options, both the neon colors, the security inks, the silver, all the things that made that a unique machine. And have been many printing companies that have both a 7 and 9 series, obviously for the reasons just mentioned. I was just wondering, do you see that inkjet will also move into, let's say, a more colorful landscape in the future, or will that stay as we know it for now?
That's an interesting question, because if you look at market studies, around 30% of all color printed sheets do have a form of, let's say, finishing. So that could be 30%. 30%, and that's according to this, as this kind of way. That could be spot varnish, that could be spot colors, or fifth color. So, and in digital, it's only 0.5%. So digital is really lagging behind, let's say, than offset. So there are a lot of opportunities. The big question is, what does the market want to use in digital devices? Is that something like spot varnish? Is it colors like neon colors? Is it like white? The good news is that all our systems are able to run more than 4 colors.
Okay. So also the inkjet devices could potentially do that if you wanted to offer that option. Okay.
Correct.
Great.
Yeah. So both the Z75 as the new platform do have physical space to put a 5th color in there. Currently, we're really focused on seam whitening, because that's what the big market request is, and we want to make sure that works well. But it is a very interesting topic. So if we post this, or if there's any way for customers to give feedback on it, I would be really interested also in the view on the market. And especially then also if there is a need for additional capabilities, what would that be? Would it be white? Would it be gold, silver, spot varnish, those kind of things? So that would be interesting to get some market feedback also.
And talking about that, I mean that if you look at inkjet devices today, both yours and your competitors, it seems that the gamut with ink is way higher than in offset as well. So even if you can cover a broader perspective of the gamut by using digital devices, so maybe the need for having additional colors is more like, as you say, effects rather than just boosting the gamut, basically, right? So that probably makes sense to let's get some machines in the market and then see what happens, right? Sander, let's do it. VC80000.
Yeah.
that was supposed to be a fanfare. So congratulations. It's I think it's always a big thing for vendors when they have new technology and bringing that to the market. We're going to talk about it a little bit, but maybe talk about the process, because I think that you have been relatively successful, or quite successful, with the VC70000 and the VC7000E. Is it E?
Correct.
Yeah. Both in the US and in the European market. And I was just wondering, I mean, when you start developing let's say an 80,000, is it kind of a let's say, on top of what you've already built, or is it also like from scratch? Or how did you get your input for what the market needs for the next iteration, and how long time has it take to develop a machine like
that? I think it's very important that why do you build a new press if you're successfully selling your current products? And that's really because there are a lot of feedback coming from the market, what they would like to see in a press, what they need, where with the current press, they see their challenges, where we can improve. And you really want to make sure that is being implemented in the press. And at one point of time, you get to the conclusion that you need to do some really groundbreaking changes to your press. In this case, we really needed to change, let's say, the core of the press, which is the paper path. I'm not sure if it's a core, but it's a key element of the press. So in order to really accommodate the request coming from the market, we needed to put, for instance, a second scanner in and potentially a third one. And, we needed to change some elements, which effectively meant that we could keep some of the good elements in there. For instance, our drying technology, the Ricoh Pro scanner option, all those kinds of things are still in there, but it had to be redesigned to really fit everything in the press. So it is built from the ground up again, but it is a lot of our experience is again inside of the press to make sure we build on the success we had with the 70,000 and the 70,000E.
Well, in the press release, I read it just before we started this interview, just to see if I could remember anything, which I can't probably. But one of the things was again an emphasis on a smaller footprint.
Yes.
It seems that also some of your competitors are looking into smaller footprint. Is that something that the market is demanding, or is it just because technology becomes, let's say, easier to implement and more accessible also in smaller sizes, or why is that
Well, I think, in the past I would have said footprint is that really important, but footprint is important. And there are a couple of reasons for that. I think if you look at, the commercial printer, their floor space is not limited. So if you would want to integrate a continuous feed press, you want to put an auto splice in front of it, you want to put a cut stack solution behind it, it's going to be a huge floor space which it requires. Then if you're not accustomed to using print rolls, you need to store your paper, which is a little bit more than just a pallet of paper. So effectively, you need a lot of floor space to implement a press. And especially if your business is growing, you have a second, you have a third press. Floor space is getting critical. So I think what we did really smart is kind of condense everything we already had in the press by just redesigning how the press was designed and being more smart with that space, really being able to reduce significantly floor space without compromising on anything else. So it's just being more effective with how do you build a press. And this is also one of the reasons why we had to start ground up, because we couldn't have realized this by just adopting the current technologies.
When I looked at the press photo, because obviously I have not seen the machine yet, I understand that you have it beta run with the Sadler Media, right? And I remember we did a Technow project together with Sadler Media and Ricoh. And there was the auto splice, as you mentioned. There was a cut stack. There was a lot of, let's say, finishing to it as well. When I saw the photo of the VC80000, there was an unwinder and a rewinder. Is that now part of the Ricoh solution, or is it still third party?
No, so so we can deliver, let's say, the original Ricoh unwinder rewinder.
Has it always been like that, or?
Sorry?
Has it always been like that? You did that because I was not. I thought that it was always Hunkler or Technow or ContiWeb or things like that. But you have always delivered, let's say, off-the-shelf solutions if you wanted to.
We have that option, but of course we also have the option to integrate with the Technow, the Hunkler, the ContiWeb kind of solution. And honestly, I feel especially in that the market will probably decide more for the Hunkler and the Technow kind of solution, because they want to have they want to have an auto splice, they want to have the cut stack solution. So I do think that will be more selected than anything else. If you want to go roll to roll, then
of course you can do that.
It is definitely a very, very good solution. But if you want to have integrated finishing capabilities, you need to go to Hunkeler Tech now, and those kind of stuff.
Another thing I also paid attention to was, of course, the speed, because with 1200 by 1200 dpi and 150 meters per minute, can it at all dry? Can it be nice and pretty, or is it just like?
It will be very dry, and I think the speed is more limited to print quality than really drying capabilities. So if you look at what was really innovative in the press, we did change our printhead technology. So the core, of course, it's still Ricoh technology, but the printheads are liquid cooled. We do have a new ink formulation, which is there are a couple of advantages. It has a higher color gamut, so the pigmentation is better, but it's also easier to dry. And we increased our drying capability. So our drying technology, which we had in the 70,000E, has advanced even more, so we can dry more ink on paper and faster. So by the reduction of need to dry with the new ink and the increasement of drying capabilities, I would say we can probably dry at even faster paces than that. But then the printheads and everything else needs to be also adjusted to it. So I would say the output is very dry. The rub-off, I would say, has improved versus current technologies. It looks really, really good.
The width of the machine, it is similar to a B2 sheet that comes out of it, right?
Yeah. So the web width is 23 inch. We have a printable area of 22.5 inch, which is 571 millimeters. So it's wider than the current technologies. And I would say, especially in the book printing market, but also for other applications, it does offer a significant advantage in the impositioning of jobs.
Can you, off your head, remember? So how many sheets an hour does that equals to? Can you remember that?
I think if we compare it to B2 sheets, and now I'm really doing the top of mind, I would say it's over 10,000 B2 images, so over 10,000 B2 sheets, and then because it's a duplex engine, it will get duplexed automatically. But if I'm wrong, you didn't prepare this in advance, but this is doing the top of mind,
that's okay. I mean, of course, I mean, even if you were wrong, it is not in the tens of thousands you're wrong anyway, right? So we are in that range anyway, right? But that means that basically that if you look at the productivity from let's say, commercial printer, and you basically look at 10,000 4+4 sheets per hour, that is, I mean, I just made a calculation because I was speaking at a conference in Berlin last week. And I think it's like 3 or 4 changes on an offset machine that runs 18,000 sheets an hour. And you have like 2-3 minutes layover time. You cannot make it on an offset machine. So I think that this fits basically also into what you said about the trend going for shorter print runs, maybe even higher level of let's say, personalization and versionalization and things like that. So if let's say a commercial printer wants to go this way, right? And prefer to have, let's say, a continuous feed machine rather than having a cut sheet machine. How challenging is it for a PSP to go from, let's say, cut sheet to web-based?
Yeah, I would say it used to be more challenging than it is today. So with this new press, we have 2 objections. We want to make sure that the press is available for a wider audience. So let's say, especially for the somewhat smaller organizations who don't have that easily the capabilities to change technology, but also in application. So changing, making it more widely available for organizations means, we're going to have the barrier to entry is going to get lower, which makes it easier, but also the specific knowledge you need to operate the press is going to be much easier. So for us, speed is nice. So the fact that we can print at 150 meters per minute, which is kind of 50% more productive than the current 70,000 E version.
How much?
50%. So parallel output we run now at 100 meters per minute, and on the 80,000 we do that at 150 meters per minute. So that's 50% more productive. But I think much more important is not so much the actual running speed, it's really the output you can generate in an hour or per day. And by high level of automation, we make sure that every print is sellable. So with the scanner, we can detect jet out, we can compensate that on the fly, we can etch each an individual nozzle. We can adjust the print voltages to make sure, that also the density across the sheet is going to be very stable. So effectively, you don't need a high-skilled operator. We can now change the speed variable, so we can go to low sprinting mode. We can do ramp up, ramp down, also to accommodate auto splice functionality, kind of also to broaden the application width. But as an operator, it's much more easier. So if you want to have a new paper, you can just load it. The printer will print, will scan the patches, etc., automatically in line. It makes it much easier to operate the press. So, of course, you need an operator for it. But for the operator itself, it's much easier to operate this press. And I can tell you the operator at Settler, and I've seen the initial pictures behind the press. He's got a very big smile on his face because he said that things which were challenging for him more on the 70,000, those have been all being addressed on the 80,000.
Is the 80,000 a replacement of 70,000, or is it more like having two different options in the market?
Yeah, so currently we will continue to sell the 70,000. And yeah, let's see what the future brings and how that will evolve. But the 80,000 is of course a new platform where also next iterations will be coming up.
Of course. And what about if you have, let's say that you are the very lucky customer of having a both Z75 and a VC80000. How is it with color consistency and consistency between technologies?
Yeah, that will be very consistent. So both the Z75 and the 80,000 share a lot of common technologies. So the printhead design, the liquid cooled printheads, the ink is the same. Of course, the drying technology is different because we're talking continuous feed and sheet fed. So that's different, but I think the look and feel will be very similar. So if you're operating a Z75 and you want to add a continuous feed or vice versa, those will look very, very similar.
Sanderem, last maybe 1-2 questions here is we spoke a bit in the beginning a little bit about the competitive space and things like that. Now we have got a little bit more insight in both the 80,000 and also how you see it in both in relation to offset, but also in relation to toner. What are the expectations? I mean, you must be quite excited because, I mean, the Z75 was delayed almost a year, right? Or a little bit more, maybe.
We've been talking about it for a long time.
A long time. Okay, so we don't call it delayed. We call it was under shipping for 1.5 years, something like that. No, seriously, I was just thinking that, you have and your colleagues have known for quite some time what is in the build-up, of course, right? I was just wondering, what is the anticipations when you go to market now? Is it an easy sell, or is it still like a challenge to convince people to go the digital way, or how do you see that?
Well, of course, with this type of investments, it's always good to focus on the customer. So is it an easy sell? Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the relevant question. I think we really need to look at what does the customer want to accomplish. And we need to make sure, we are aligned and agreeing on customer expectations. So some customers have a very clear picture of where they want to go. Some customers see, there's a need for me to change more to digital. They don't have it clear. So I think it's important there that we make sure we align expectations and get on the same page. So it really depends on the customer. If you look from a technology perspective, the technology is ready. The beta is going really well. We expect that the press is commercially available early 24, which is a different time frame than with the Z75, which was always a little bit longer planning. And that also has to do that we have a lot of experience with this type of technology. So,
of course,
the first generation is the fourth generation we're bringing to market. So, but I do think it's going to be, with the technology inside, it's going to be much easier for customers to transform into this market, and therefore it will be easier for us to bring it to market.
And what about the last question here? So what about, the competitiveness in the market? I mean, you have some, I would say, worthy competitors in the market, right? And it's always like, I always think that you are so friendly to each other because you're always like, yeah, but we're building a market together and we have respect for competition and all these things that drives innovation. I totally respect and agree with that. But I was just wondering, the market is, it's not a decreasing market on all segments, but some segments where you also address the market with these machines are at least under change, dramatic change, and the decisions a printer takes these days on investing in Ricoh or an offset machine or going on the golf course in early retirement. All these kind of things are, of course, very serious considerations that you have to do at this current time. So I was just thinking, I was just curious about your because you know what I'm talking about. I know that. Yeah. So I was just wondering what your thoughts are.
Morten, I think what is important is like you said, the market is changing. So we do and changing in a couple of ways. Technology is changing. But like I said in the beginning, there's also a lot of pressure on the usage of paper. So what I think the market is very big and big enough for more than one company like Ricoh to work in. I do
I'm sure about that.
Yeah, so I do think we need each other, and we need to make sure that the value of paper and the added value, especially the added value of paper, is being promoted. We make it easier for clients to change technology and make sure we can bring that value to market, because effectively that is helping all of us. So it's not a matter of being nice. It's also that I would say, being on your own, it's very difficult. Being together, it's much more easier to change the market landscape. I do think we have a very nice offering for our clients. I think this new platform will bring a lot of new innovation to the market where clients are waiting for. So yeah, I'm really positive on the future, but it will be hard work, and it's always a very competitive market from a lot of perspectives to make sure, depending on the economical climate, can companies afford it to invest, etc. So yeah, it is, and that's also the very nice part about our job, let's say, in this industry.
Sander, thank you very much for your time here on English TV. I appreciate the conversation. I hope you enjoyed it too.
I appreciate the invitation, Morten.
Always, you're very welcome. And I was pleased that you took the time to do this. So we have this interview ready very shortly, so people can learn from you. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.